never be a memory.
And what's going on, Read My Lips people? We are back. Back like we ain't never left, baby. So, very, very interesting video today. Actually, it's by demand. Over the last couple days since the whole stimulus situation, a little bit after I put out, the facts about the stimulus bill everybody's going to get, I kept getting hit up by, subscribers and some people on Twitter saying you should really cover how Bernie and AOC screwed us over, or how they betrayed us, and stuff along those lines. And I really had to sit back and think about it. I had to sit back and really dig in and do some research, because the word betray is pretty big. That's a pretty big word. And with Bernie having been my number two, I had to really get my facts straight and delve into what people were talking about. And I think this bill actually leads to a broader subject. So I'm going to talk about the bill, and then I'm going to talk about also a broader subject involving Bernie Sanders, and did he betray the left with the bill, and did he betray the left in general. And so before I delve into that, I just want to say this isn't a Bernie bashing video, right? I'm just going to, hit people with the facts, give them my opinions, say what I think went well, and say what I think went wrong. And I know there is a pocket. There's a pocket in the Yang Gang who absolutely detest Bernie Sanders. And quite frankly, I'm not part of that pocket. To the point that either yesterday or 2 days ago, I put up a meme in the community tab, and it said how Democrats react to Donald Trump committing sexual assault, and how the Democrats act to Joe Biden committing sexual assault. And in the meme, all it was Bernie Sanders bashing. Literally, all the comments in the meme had nothing to do with Joe Biden's assault. So, look, it's no secret to anyone that there's definitely a deep pocket of the Yang Gang that dislike Bernie Sanders. Now, how I'm going to judge Bernie Sanders has zero to do with the Bernie bros, because, quite frankly, they didn't bother me and haven't bothered me. As a matter of fact, the people that's come after me the most when I've made videos have been Warren and Pete supporters. So everyone has their own interactions, and everyone has their own, dilemmas they face on the internet involving different groups of people. But Bernie supporters really have never come after me crazy. They've really never come after me hard. And that doesn't mean that hasn't happened to you. I'm sure you've had your own interactions with them. But as far as I'm concerned, they haven't been the most toxic to me personally. As a matter of fact, it was a Pete supporter that told me, oh, so a nigger thinks he can do the news now. Yeah, there's a Pete supporter, not a Sanders supporter. So I can't get into that pocket with a lot of you. But I can criticize Bernie Sanders on many, many things. Just like all the candidates can be criticized on something if we try hard enough. So let's delve into it. The bill that passed, we'll start with that. So AOC, who, from what I'm seeing now, might have distanced herself from Bernie and, a lot of progressives. If you want me to cover that in a video, let me know, because that deserves a video of its own. But Bernie Sanders and AOC voted pretty much, and this is what people wanted me to talk about, and how he betrayed the left. Voted yes on the stimulus package that just came out, which is pretty much just helping big business and Wall Street. The stimulus package pretty much shits on us.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to our Majority Leader. I represent one of the hardest hit communities in the hardest hit city in this country, Queens, New York. 13 dead in a night in Elmhurst Hospital alone. Our community's reality is this country's future if we don't do anything. Hospital workers do not have protective equipment. We don't have the necessary ventilators. But we have to go into this vote eyes wide open. What did the Senate majority fight for? One of the largest corporate bailouts with as few strings as possible in American history. Shameful. The greed of that fight is wrong for crumbs, for our families. And the option that we have is to either let them suffer with nothing or to allow this greed and billions of dollars, which will be leveraged into trillions of dollars, to contribute to the largest income inequality gap in our future. There should be shame about what was fought for in this bill and the choices that we have to make.
Gentlelady's time's expired.
And I yield.
It pretty much shits on us. In the immediate, aftermath of the bill, the $1,200, I'm sure people are going to want that. If you're to go ask the Susan Know Nothing and Johnny Everybody, do they want that $1,200? They're going to tell you yes. As a matter of fact, people right now are asking when they're getting their money. I had calls today from my staff asking me, when's that money coming? Which my response was, you haven't been watching my videos. But they wanted me to break down when they'd be getting it and what have you. So people are looking forward to this money, for sure. For sure. But in the broader spectrum, in the bigger picture, it doesn't do shit for us, really. It completely shits on us. And this kind of, for me, was, I don't want to say the final straw, but it was the final, yeah, this is why you lost. Now, I'm going to come right out and say it. Bernie Sanders is leagues above Joe Biden as far as being a better candidate. It's not even close. And I'll argue with you to the death. Joe Biden is nowhere near as good a candidate as Bernie Sanders. Period. Full stop. But Joe Biden didn't have to do or overcome the hurdles that Bernie Sanders is going to have to do to win. All Joe Biden had to do was exist and not fuck up, which he's been fucking up. But the worst of the fuck-ups have come recently. Bernie Sanders had a mountain of hills to climb. A lot of those hills, technically, he made himself because of what he was suggesting he wanted to do in the establishment. He wanted to uproot it. He wanted to cause and start a revolution. And that's where the problem lies. Because what he was saying and what he was doing were two different things. And a good show of this is this bill. So, Sanders was stuck between a rock and a hard place. If he voted against this bill, they would have reamed him no lube. If he would have voted against this bill because of what it did for corporations and the fact that it didn't do enough for us, it would have put him in a bad light. My example of this is all throughout social media, all I saw when the bill first didn't get passed was Nancy Pelosi is stopping your money. I saw this from tons of people. A lot in the African-American community, too. Look, y'all, Nancy Pelosi stopping your money. All throughout social media, right? And, I mean, she had her reasons for stopping the money or not signing over the bill, but they were ready to crucify her. Because she didn't co-sign this bill, because she voted against it, they were ready to crucify Nancy Pelosi. It would have been double, if not triple that for Bernie Sanders if he would have voted against this bill. And he knew that. But would it have been the right thing to do? I'm leaning towards yes. No, trust me, I want this money. I need this money. I think a lot of people do. My job is shut down. They furloughed us. Our health benefits last us for the month of April, and then we're on our own. We're not getting any income. This money's necessary. So I get it. And I'd give the head nod to almost anybody else. But Bernie, you're playing ball. And you've been playing ball. And it's sad. It's sad that in so many different ways they've made you bend the knee. And this has been a constant from the start of this campaign this time around. Now, 2015, 2016 was slightly different. We were just getting our first taste of Sanders. Everybody hated Hillary Clinton. She was the best politician ever, which made her the worst politician ever. Nobody liked her. She was so smug, so entitled, so condescending. She had no charm, no charisma. Nobody liked her. And then you got this disheveled old man with crazy looking hair. No, I'm not talking about Trump. That comes along and tells people, I just want to help you. I want to give you this. I want to give you that. We're in a fucked up place. Let's fix this. And a lot of people fell in love. They fell in love with that concept. They fell in love with that idea. Even Andrew Yang did. Andrew Yang loves some Bernie Sanders, which amazes me that Yang loves some Bernie, but there's so much Yang gang that absolutely detests Bernie Sanders. It's quite interesting. But Yang fell in love with that too. A lot of us did. A lot of us did. Now, Barack Obama had came along, and though he was nothing but a corporate Democrat himself, a lot of black people will argue against that, but they don't know what the fuck they're talking about if they're arguing against it. Even though he was nothing but a corporate Democrat, he was smooth, he had charm, he had charisma. When he spoke, motherfuckers listened, okay? But nothing changed much under Barack Obama's ruling. So a lot of people were still downtrodden. They were like, all right, this is bullshit. And then Bernie came along and changed a lot of that shit in 2015, 2016. And then he was genuinely screwed out of it, out of that election. Fast forward to this time around, and he's kind of soft. He's soft. And I've said this in other videos. He's softened up. He's bent the knee, and we've seen it in different circumstances. Cenk Uygur was running, which he lost. Cenk Uygur didn't win, which I'm actually very surprised about, because at one point he was doing really well. But the momentum seemed to have stopped for him. I think he finished like at 5% or something like that. So Cenk Uygur was getting all this backlash. And, Bernie Sanders had endorsed Cenk Uygur. And then once the heat was turned up, Sanders backed off. He unendorsed Cenk Uygur. And so I was very surprised. And I get it. Cenk said he wants everybody to unendorse him. But Bernie, what do you do in that situation? Guess what you do? I'm going to tell you what you do. You keep your endorsement. You say, fuck that. Fuck what they're saying. I believe in you. I believe in what you're saying. I know you've changed. I know you're this. I know you're that. You have my fucking endorsement. I endorse Cenk Uygur. Full stop. But he didn't do that. He bent the knee. Tulsi Gabbard was getting hammered. He didn't speak up. He didn't speak up for Tulsi Gabbard when she needed him the most. And Tulsi has been on Bernie's side every step of the way. Every step of the way. As a matter of fact, if Tulsi would have been on that debate stage, the last debate, she would have obliterated Joe Biden. She would have made a last-ditch effort to help Sanders out. I guarantee. I'll bet everything I have. It ain't much, but I'll bet it. Sanders never really did the same for her. That didn't sit right with a lot of people. Sanders keeps calling these people his friend. Sanders, your friends don't want to start a political revolution. Your friends want the status quo. You were too soft. When you had a chance to sit down with Andrew Yang and adopt some of his policies, or at least pick his brain, you didn't do it. You had a chance. There was a small moment in time where you could have said, you know what? I still believe in federal jobs guarantee. And maybe down the line we can implement that. But for now, let's do this UBI you're talking about. Let's do this UBI. But you didn't. You didn't do it. You ignored him. You never said to fucking Tulsi Gabbard. Like that, adopted some form of UBI. Agree with it or disagree with her methods. She did. I'm not even saying you had to do Yang's method of UBI. I'm not even saying it had to be the freedom dividend. But you could have did some form of UBI. You could have said, Yang, I want you to sit down with me and can we find a different way to do this UBI instead of the way you're doing it, or something else, whatever, your own form. Even if you were talking about caps like Tulsi did, if you would have at least showed the effort. But you didn't. You didn't. And I have Yang Gang in my comment section all the time calling you a narcissist and you're stuck in your own ways. And God damn it, I can't fucking defend you. Because you're stuck in your own ways. And look, I'll argue with anyone to the death. I do believe you genuinely care about people. I know you do. I know you care about people. You've been caring about people from the fucking jump. And I'll argue with anybody about that. But there are different ways. There are different ways. And you see independent media, David Dole, from the Rational National, all these different people, they've adopted that. They've adopted it's this way or no way. And it's left people with a bitter taste in their mouth. Listen, we love Yang. And a lot of Yang Gang used to be former Bernie supporters. But his ideas beckoned them. And so they jumped ship. Not that they disliked you, they just thought, I like this way better. I want to try this way. But you refused to budge even a smidgen. And it left a bad taste in people's mouths, to the point where your supporters are now known as toxic. Because a lot of them, the ones that didn't jump ship, don't want to hear any other way. Now, does that make you toxic? No, I don't think that makes you toxic. I think it makes you closed-minded. I was a Bernie supporter. I jumped over to Yang Gang, and I was convinced by an ex-Trump supporter, Russell from Grassroots Yang Gang, who is now a Yang supporter. You see, when we open our minds, it allows miraculous things to happen. Now I have a fucking channel. I have over 3,000 people that give me feedback, and I give feedback, and consider them like family. So I don't think it's a question of, did Bernie betray the left? I don't think betrayal is the correct word. I think it's he let down the left. Because hindsight is 20/20, and I look back and I see all the pivots you could have made, and you didn't do them. And for fuck's sake, I can't understand why. I can't understand why people say it's your hubris. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why the fuck you couldn't sit down and talk to Yang. There's no way you can't look at Andrew Yang and say he's not the future. Everyone knows he's the future. Everyone knows. He's the direction politics is headed in. Now, Sanders, you've been in politics for a long time. You had to have seen that. A lot of people said Sanders should have just dropped out and let Yang go forth and what have you. I'm not going to tell you to do that. I would never tell you to do that. I'm not going to tell you to sacrifice your dreams or aspirations because I would never sacrifice mine. Somebody told me, Ronnie, you need to drop your channel. It's not going to do it. Now, the fate of the world, the fate of the U.S. is in the hands of the presidency. So, definitely a bigger scale than just my tiny little channel. But I'm not going to tell you needed to drop out. But what I will tell you is, man, oh man, you should have opened your ears. And man, oh man, you should have fought harder. They're going to hate you anyways. No matter what you do, Bernie Sanders, they will always fucking hate you. The media will always hate you. Corporations will always hate you. That's just what it is. Embrace it and rip their necks off. Why are you so soft? You can't start a revolution being soft. You can't. You can't do it. You should have voted against this goddamn bill. You should have said, hey, look, this needs to be split into two different bills. This needs to be split into two different bills. And you're going to take heat for it. You're going to fucking take heat for it. I'm letting you know now you were going to take heat for it. But was it the right thing to do? Was this decision that you were going to make on the bill part of your revolution? I mean, the results are no different. You signed off on the bill, you gave them what they wanted, and they still hate you. People wonder why the youth vote didn't come out as much as they did this time around for you. Because the old people came out in droves for Joe Biden, and for some strange reason, black people for Joe Biden. But they didn't come out for you like they should have. Because if the youth would have came out for you like they should have, you would have been winning, Warren aside. But they didn't, because there was no fire in them. Because you didn't have a fire in you. Now, I'm not saying you didn't make great speeches. I'm not saying you didn't travel around where you needed to go. I'm not saying you didn't care. You just didn't have that fire. You're trying to start a revolution. You're literally trying to dig the shit up, rip it up from the seams, and rebuild. You can't do that being friends with handsy Uncle Joe. Look at the situation we're in. A potential rapist is the front runner. That's where we're at. There's no reason why Bernie Sanders shouldn't be destroying Joe Biden. But you were weak. You were weak. You weren't aggressive enough. Now, I get it, you're a 70-something-year-old man. So I can't expect you to have the vibrant enthusiasm of an Andrew Yang or to be as quick with your quips. But goddamn it, I expected you to act like you wanted a revolution. And you didn't. And the vote on this bill showed it. It's got people like fucking Kyle Kalinske even coming out and saying, Bernie, you fucking dropped the ball.
Also in the Senate, you need Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, maybe Sherrod Brown, some of the people who are on the left to some extent, get them all together and say, listen, we need a full court press. We need to go all in. In the case of the Senate, they could say, I'm going to block this bill unless you have to split it in two. You have to split it in two. That would have been my move. And I would have absolutely done as many interviews as I could possibly do, get the word out as much as possible, and just say, we have to split this bill in two, have a bailout of the people first, and then we'll get to the terms of the corporate bailout. But we have to first vote on a clean bill for a bailout of the people. We have to first vote on a clean bill of a bailout of the people. That's what you do. Now, why didn't they do that? Because it's hard to organize. It's hard to organize especially when you know leadership is going to say, listen, if you do this, you're done skis, bro. You think I'm going to do any favor for you in any way, shape, or form if you do this? Because that's what Nancy Pelosi would say. That's what Chuck Schumer would say. They would look at AOC and Ilhan Omar and Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and all them with disdain. But you know what, guys? And I hope one of them is watching it right now. They're always going to look at you that way. So you might as well show actual leadership and courage. They're going to hate you no matter what you do, just so you understand. They might pretend every now and then to respect you or get along with you or be nice to you. They don't like you. They never will. So why not show some actual leadership and courage and organization? It's not hard to make the case that she just made. She just said, what are we talking about here? This is a $4.5 trillion bailout of corporate America, which is really just a heist. And this is Naomi Klein's The Shock Doctrine, namely exploit a tragedy to do what they wanted to do beforehand, which is just total corporate socialism, which is just no matter what, we bail out the wealthy people in the country and the 1% in the corporations. You can make that case. It's not that hard to make that case. So if you guys go out there, I guarantee you the press would try to spin it. Oh my God, they're holding up the much needed, relief for working families. You can control the narrative if you're organized and if you're aggressive. And if you go out there and you say very clearly, we are for the bailout of the people. They are not for the bailout of the people, because really what they want to do is totally change our economy and rig our economy and do corporate socialism from now until the end of time and give all the money and let the rich loot the treasury, and we are the only people who are actually fighting for regular Americans. You can make that case. You can control the narrative. It just requires actual leadership and organization. And they certainly didn't organize, and they certainly didn't show leadership and courage. You know who, funny enough, did show courage? Thomas Massie. Now, again, I don't agree with him on very few things I agree with him. He's a libertarian. He's like a hardcore libertarian, so maybe him and I would agree on some social issues and stuff, he's against corporate bailouts. He's against like all welfare for regular people. I disagree with him on that, but he's against corporate welfare too. And so he stuck his neck out there and he was like, yeah, I want everybody to at least get on the record and you got to vote. And he took fire from everybody. The president was tweeting about him. But that's courage. And that's leadership. But he was the only one. Usually, in a situation like this, you see a weird alliance of like Tea Party-like conservatives and the progressive left. And on this one, the progressive left was nowhere to be seen. You had Ilhan Omar, you had AOC, you had Bernie Sanders, you had all of them talking about, oh, this is $500 billion of corporate welfare. It's not. It's $4.5 trillion because they could add more to it. And it's up to it's up to Steve Mnuchin, which is disastrous because he's a Goldman Sachs fraud. And he's going to determine who gets the bailout, who gets the money, and why. It's insanity. But they spoke about how they knew how wrong it is, but ultimately they voted for the bill. This is going to be a stain on all of their records. It is. And again, I know that, if they're watching this, they're going to say, what do you know, Kyle? It's easy to talk about this from your comfy studio and when your neck and your reputation and your career isn't on the line. And again, my response to them is very simple. I hear you. It's hard. It's not easy. You're going to take shots. You're going to take fire, not only from Democratic leadership, who are going to make you pay for it, but also from the media, who at first would, talk about you guys as if you're the bad guys. But sometimes, when you stick your neck out there, history views you as the hero.
Who's a bigger Bernie bro than Kyle Kulinski? Who? Even he is ultimately disappointed. So again, I'll reiterate. Did Bernie Sanders betray the left? No. No, he kept pushing his left policies. He kept pushing his agenda. But did he let down the left? Yes. This was the last hurrah. This is it. If you didn't win this time around, this is it. I needed you to cut throats. I needed you to bury Amy Klobuchar. I needed you to bury Pete. I needed you to Kamehameha Biden. I needed you to destroy everyone in your path to get what you needed to get done for your revolution. That's what people wanted you to do. I needed you to have people join your force. Yang, Tulsi, fuck it, Tom Steyer, get the fuck over here. You didn't do any of that. And it failed. So, you guys have been asking, people have, asked me about it. This is my answer. Bernie didn't betray the left. He failed the left. And we're going to be stuck with a Biden or a Trump for another couple years. And that's just pathetic. So, I'm going to take my tea. And go binge watch some Joe Exotic. So if you like what you see, if you like what you hear, please like, comment, and subscribe. Just hip thrust that like button. I'd really appreciate it. If you don't, let me know in the comment section why. I'm always down to talk about it. I have a Cash App, a PayPal, and a Venmo link in the description below. Please feel free to donate to the channel now more than ever. Every little bit helps. Hopefully I'll be talking to you guys soon. Have a good one. Peace.
Fucked and drank